Let's start for today. Welcome to the IDTA webcast series Digital Twin Expert Talks. Today we have Roland as a presenter. He will present the AS use case digital nameplate and the implementation at his company Stahl. Roland is Digital Transformation Manager at Stahl and a really active member in IDTA. We are looking forward for an exciting presentation today. Today's presentation will be recorded and provided online afterwards. We put it on our YouTube channel. If you have any questions during the 20 minutes presentation of Roland, just put them in the Q&A tab on the top right or put them in the chat. You can raise also your hand and ask a question after the presentation of Roland. And now, Roland, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mike, for the introduction and also for the invitation. I will share my screen right now. You can see it. Mike, can you please give me feedback? Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So a warm welcome from my side. It's a pleasure for me to talk about the digital nameplate and our actual implementation at Stahl here in Germany. So a few words about Stahl if you don't know our company. We are the worldwide experts for explosive protection. So we have all products related to explosive protection areas. This means electrical distribution panels. We have lightning and signaling devices. We have automation devices. We have HMI panels and everything else you need to use in such environments. So we are worldwide active with more than 50 subsidiaries. And so I will start directly with the topic. So before we start with digital nameplates, let's have a short look to the current situation at customers. Before we started with our implementation, we had a lot of discussions about the actual situation, and we start with thinking about what are the difficulties on site with data availability related to products and components. So from our point of view, at first, you need a lot of data and information about products at the engineering stage. So if you want to develop a machine or a whole drilling platform or something like that, you need to select the right components, and then you're doing the engineering job, and therefore you need 3D models, you need technical data, certificates, and much more. Then later on, when you realize those machines or those devices, then for sure, there's a huge demand from the operator owner side. So at first, operator owners need to know which products are installed on site. And if you have a look to brownfield applications right now, a lot of companies really don't know what's outside in the field. So they recognize it when the components are failing and they have a downtime of the whole plant. So this is really the worst case. So for greenfield applications and for new plants, they definitely want to have some kind of asset management. Based on that, we are really focused on explosive protection materials, and maintenance is really important in those areas. So that means you need to do regular maintenance on each component. If you don't know what's installed outside in the field, to be honest, you can't do the maintenance work in that case. So one thing is based on the other. And the last real topic we figured out is related to the automation part. So all the operator owner sites are really interested in getting information about security gaps and patches and firmware updates. Since Stuxnet, everyone recognized that you can destroy a whole plant even by plugging in a wrong USB stick. We also figured out that there are some basic obstacles out in the field. You have different formats of data, and all the different manufacturers normally publish the data on different places. So we tried to collect all the data even for our own products on our own websites, and we counted the clicks you need to do to get all the informations. And even on our own website, you need at least 30 to 40 clicks to collect all the informations and all the data sheets and everything else, even for one product. If you imagine that you have more than 10,000 different components out there in a plant, it's a mess to collect it in that way. So you can't do it really. We also had we had a view into the future, and we looked to the future requirements. And to be honest, Industry 4.0, everyone is talking about that, and related to that, we think that there will be a strong interconnectivity of machines and plants for the future. Brownfield is maybe a bit different, especially in process automation, but in the future, you will have a stronger interconnectivity, and you have a lot of data flowing from one machine to the other one and between different platforms. So this is mandatory for the future. Also, reduced development times are really needed. So in former times, you had at first the mechanical engineering, then the electrical engineering afterwards, and the last part was the automation team doing the program job, so programming part. With digital engineering, you can do nearly everything at the same time, and you can reduce dramatically the development times. So this is really important that you can earn the money at a quite early stage, that the plants are running quite fast. Also, there's something which is an upcoming topic. It's a digital product passport. It's mainly driven by the EU government. So it's related to the Sustainability Act. And this will force all the different manufacturers to provide digital product passports in the future for each single product. And at the end of the day, if you take a look to your daily life, when you go out there and buy some fruits or something else, it's quite common that you find QR codes, even on a banana or some other fruits. And if you scan it, you get a lot of detailed information. So you get information about the farm where this fruit was grown. You get some recipes, how to cook it, how to eat it, something like that. You get information about the content in there and so on. Much information just by scanning a QR tag. And we think that this will be also recommended from the process automation sides in the future to get an easy access to all different product data. So from our point of view, the right and best solution is a combination of digital nameplates and digital twins. And digital twins, we must explain it a bit deeper. So if we are talking about digital twins, we always mean a digital twin based on asset administration shells. Because a lot of companies are claiming we have digital twins. Normally, they are related to simulation models, which they are providing. And the asset administration shell is quite a bit different. For sure, you can have simulation models inside an asset administration shell, but much more. And that's the reason why we decided to have the combination of the digital nameplate and asset administration shells. So here you can see our idea how to get access to all those data. From now on and for all the future products, we will provide a special digital nameplate based on the IEC standards. So this means you have an additional QR code or an RFID tag directly established here on the printed nameplate. And if you scan it, you have a direct link to a server of a product manufacturer. And there you get all the details out of the asset administration shell. So when we started our project, at first we thought, okay, it's a good idea to publish in a digital way the information which is already printed on an existing nameplate. But then we figured out that's not the whole story. If you want to be successful out there, and if customers are asking for information content, they are not asking about the content of a printed nameplate. They were always looking for technical data, for CAD models, for certificates, pictures, documents, firmware versions, service informations, spare part list, and so on. So much more than just only providing the printed information in a digital way. So that's the reason why we decided, okay, for the future, we will have all those data inside of an asset administration shell. So why we decided for the asset administration shell, the main part is that this data model was developed that it's readable by machines. So in this case, you can easily exchange informations without a lot of efforts in between. So if you provide data in your own format, for sure, a human can read it maybe on a homepage or on a web page, but it's not so easy to implement it, for example, in an ERP system. So with the asset administration shell developed to be in an interoperable way, to be used interoperable, we decided this is the best way because it doesn't matter if you want to read it by a machine or if you want to read it by different software codes. So it's quite easy to exchange it also to ERP systems, to engineering suites, and so on. And the asset administration shell contains all the information about a product along the entire product lifecycle. So it's the right place to gather all the information through the entire life of a product. And for sure, a part of it, it's a digital nameplate. So we are talking about this blue area here. So it's a whole data model related to a real asset. So now it's a big question from a lot of our customers. Okay, where can I find those information models? So if you take a look to the specifications for asset administration shells, there are a lot of different ways to handle it. So you can send it by email, you can store it on a USB stick, you can put it on a CD-ROM or whatever you want to do to send it to your customers. But from our point of view, with the Industry 4.0 background, we decided USB sticks or emails is not the right way. We decided, okay, there are only two valid places for us. The first one is store it in a cloud system so that you can reach it from everywhere over the world if you have access to the internet. The other location is related to smart assets where you have a processor and an interface inside of an asset. So in this case, it's also a good idea also to put it into the asset, because in this case, you can also use it for machine-to-machine communication. So we also want to show you the different use cases or our vision for the future. For sure, some of the use cases we are showing right now will be not established in the future, but we want to open your eyes what's possible if all the different data and information is available to one specific product. So here we have the line of a product life cycle starting from the production and ending with the disposal or with the recycling process. In between, you have different steps where your asset is out in the field. So at first, during a production process, you can be sure there is a lot of different data which is coming up, starting from the ambient temperature, from the humidity, from the different parts you are building together, where you're assembling them, sometimes the parameterization set, and so on. So there is a lot of data coming up during a production of a product. And you will find a lot of different documents and ideas which subscribes how to collect the data and how to do a lot of things with it. So this is normally quite clear for all of our customers. The next step, when you have produced a product and it's finished, then for sure you will sell it. And then you have a transportation, for example, to an engineering company. And just have a look to the transportation path. There's also a lot of data which is created during the transportation. And even before you start sending it, you have the weight, you have the dimensions, you have the custom tariff number, and much more. If you send products by a plane, you have a huge data set which is created. Also, if you take a look to the intralogistic, you need always to know where it's a product stored inside of a transportation system or something like that. And if you take a look to the, again, to the real life, if you send fruits per ship to the real markets, then there is a digital data logger already attached to the containers, which always measures the temperature, the humidity, and the CO2 content inside of the container, that you can be sure that nothing happens to the fruit during the transportation phase. You will find analog devices for technical sendings. So normally you have a small glass bubble with different layers of colored sand. You can attach it to electrical components or to a whole machine. And then you can recognize if the container was dropped or something like that, if the layers are mixed. So for fruits, you have a digital recording of all the data. For more high-tech components, you do it on an analog way nowadays. Then the next location is the engineering company or the assembly line where you put all the different components to a machine together. And there you will have a location inside of a machine. You will have a wiring diagram. You will have also data about parametration and so on. Maybe you have also additional labelings on it. So this is also quite common outside in the field. So a lot of different data is coming up in addition to the data set from the manufacturer of the product. Then again, you have a transportation phase. And we figured out the most use cases for sure at the end user, at the operator owner side. And this is quite clear because normally the component stays the longest time at the operator owner side. From our products, 30 to 40 years, it's quite normal. And for sure, there you have maintenance data, you have asset information systems where you put it in, you have repair informations, you have the location where it's installed. And to be honest, if you want to know where's the real serial number installed, for example, to plan your firmware update, this is really mandatory to know where it's located in your whole plant. You have also service software and so on. So a lot of use cases at the end user side. And we think really down to the end of a product life. So nowadays the recycling is done by scrambling it, making it into tiny pieces and try to get the recycling materials out of it. So this is really the hard way to get recycling materials out of it. Just think if the data model really contains how to disassemble a product, and if you have a real list inside, what are the recycling components, what are the hazardous components in there, so you can, in this case, you can do the recycling path in a very smooth way, and you can also have real benefits at the end of a product life just by providing the right information at that stage. So that's our vision of what you can achieve with the data, putting it together in one specific place. And from our point of view, the asset administration shell is really the right data model to achieve those vision in the future. Here you can see also our idea of the data infrastructure. So we are a manufacturer normally of components and small systems, and we will publish the information in forms of asset administration shells in a cloud storage. For sure, in this case, you have an easy access with the digital nameplate, just scanning the QR code or the FID tag, and you have a direct access to the information we are providing on our cloud storage. But there are also a lot of different ecosystems out there right now, and we're pretty sure in the future there will be also a huge change and new platforms will coming up. So if you take a look to the upper right corner, you will find Amazon with the Amazon warehouse systems. You have Microsoft with Microsoft Azure. You have Siemens MindSphere. You have Gardena X. You have Gaia X. You have ShareCAD and a lot of other platforms which where you can place also the asset administration shells. So to have an interconnection in between, you can use REST API systems, or you can do something like a hard copy into the cloud systems. And in this case, for sure, then also the information model is available here, and it will remain with our original data set within our cloud storage. And you can have it also decentralized on your own servers. You can copy it, and then you have also the protection with firewalls in between if you also add some additional submodels which you do not want to share with other participations here. Okay, that's our idea, and based on that, and also based on our vision, what you can achieve with the different data models, we've developed an online demonstrator, and you can see the link here, and I'm pretty sure you will find it in a few minutes out there in the chat. And I will directly jump into it because we figured out, we explained 6 different use cases which you can use right now out in the field, even if you have not a fully interconnected plant system. You will find them here in the area about the demonstrator. The first use case we are showing here is related to firmware updates. So if you are an operator owner and you want to get the information from suppliers, if there are firmware updates available or if there are some security gaps or something like that. Normally, you have to go to the website and search for it, or you have a service which is called, for example, cert at VDE, and then you get something like a newspaper, and then you get the information, hey, the supplier has figured out that there is a security gap, and then you have to search which of your serial numbers out there in the field is really affected. With a digital nameplate and with asset administration shells, you can have it much more easier. So in this case, just scan the QR tag, register yourself for the information, and then we as a manufacturer can send you the information really based on the single serial number. So you don't have to search which serial number in your factory is affected. You will get it directly by email. So we have the simulation here in our demonstrator. Just click on it, and you see here it's a CPU module. And if you click on the registration for firmware updates, just add your email address in here. And then in this case here in the demonstrator, you see you are now registered for it. And for sure, in our demonstrator, we create every 2 minutes a new firmware. So you will get within 2 minutes the information by email that for this specific serial number, there's a new firmware available. And you also get a link where you find additional information. So this does not mean that we automatically install a new firmware on your device, but we inform you really precise down to the single serial number that there are new informations on new firmwares are available. The second use case is something special for the process automation business from our point of view. So we're talking about, with our products, explosive protection areas. In those areas, it's not 100% sure that you always have an internet connection or you have the right devices, because in explosive protected areas, you can't use your standard cell phone or your standard tablet. You need explosive protected devices in these areas, and they are not so common right now. So in this case, here we have a drilling platform offshore. If there is a technician on side of those drilling platform and he needs some information about a specific device, normally they have some kind of walkie-talkie or something like that, and they have a connection to an operator in the back office. And in this case, he will ask his questions to the specific components to the operator in the back office. And the operator nowadays search within the printed paperwork for the right information. You can imagine there is a huge amount of printed paperwork for a whole drilling platform. So with the digital nameplate and the asset administration shells, you can have it much more easier. In this case, the technician on site just provides the operator in the back office the serial number and for sure the company name that they need to know where, they know where to search. You just enter the serial number in the search area, and with 2 clicks, you have a direct access, and it is exactly the same access you will have when you scan the QR code on the product. So here you have all the information directly available, like the nameplate, you have the technical data, you have all the documentations and so on. Just with 2 clicks, you have a direct access to all related and really specific information down to the serial number. This will really reduce a lot of time and efforts on the operator owner side in service cases. The third use case we figured out is related to return notes. Nowadays, if you want to send back a unit, you have to fill in your information and all different details in special forms. And to be honest, every company provides their own forms. And the first thing you have to do is to find the right form. And this will take a lot of time. And then you have to fill in, normally manually by hand, the serial number, the product number, and so on. So a lot of informations which are still available. And you double the information in this case. And if you take a look, for example, to Amazon, if you want to return units on Amazon, you just go to your historical data, select the right product, click on the return button, and everything is pre-filled. This is not exactly the same, but it's in a similar way. So if you want to send back a unit, just scan the QR code. And here with the service tab, we have the preview of the return form. So everything which is already known about the unit is pre-filled. So you have the right address where you want to send it. You have the serial number, you have the SAP order code, you have the product description. You just need to fill in your own contact details and the reason for sending it back. Then you can print it, put it to the device and send it back. And you can also send it by email to us. And it's also easier for us if we get it in that way, because in this case, we know that you will not mix up the serial number with the manufacturer product code or something like that. So it's also easier for us to deal with it. This will also save a lot of time and money in cases of return notes. Then we have a simulation of digital maintenance manual. Nowadays, a lot of service technicians get some lists, checklists, and so on when in a printed way, and they go out in the field, search for the right device, and then they fill in the checklist, send it back to the back office, and someone has to do the digitalization job, and then you will find it later on in your own service software. And a lot of companies also add some additional codes or some additional stickers on the devices that they can identify the devices in their own service software. We see digital nameplate. It's not necessary because you have a worldwide unique ID coded in there, and you can use the QR codes even in service or maintenance software. Just scan it with the camera, and then you have direct access also to your own service software. Here we have the simulation of it. And normally, the manufacturer of a component provides all the different maintenance steps in their manual. So you have normally a PDF file, and then if you want to add it to your own software, you have to do a copy and paste job to get it into your own service software environment. With asset administration shells in the future, you will get the information directly within the asset administration shell, and you can easily implement it without doing copy and paste anymore. So here you see it. When you are outside the field, just scan the QR code. Then under the tab of maintenance, you have here the simulation. Just click on the checkboxes, which maintenance step you have provided. Then you can add your name or some other comments. Click on the save button, and then you see it here with the date and timestamp. It's directly recorded, and you have also an access to the historical maintenance data. So we believe that this will also make life much more easier outside in the field. The use case of download, it's related to the documents. So especially if you're talking about explosive protection areas, you have regular audits there. And the auditor runs through the entire plant and can point his finger to single components and ask you, okay, please provide me the right documents. And then nowadays, you are going back again into your office and searching in the paperwork to find the right certificate. Also, with the digital nameplate in combination with the asset administration shell, just scan the QR code. So in this case, you have a direct access to all the different documents. Here, in this case, also you will find all the manuals in all the provided languages, and you will find all the different certificates. Just click on it. You have the preview of it. In this case, it's a Korean explosive protection certificate. You can provide it directly to the auditor. You can download it as a single PDF file, or you can download the whole set of informations and provide also the operating manuals. And the last use case we figured out is related to successor products. So as I mentioned before, we have a lot of products running out there in the field for more than 30 to 40 years. And you can be sure that we have developed in that time the second or third successor generation. And if one unit is failed, which is quite old, the customer will call us, and we also have to search nowadays in our paperwork for the right successor model. So this will be quite easy in the future. Again, just scan the QR code, and we as a manufacturer will provide the information directly in the asset administration shells on our own cloud repository. So during the entire life of the product, we will also have the actual information inside of the asset administration shell. And in that case, you will directly see what's the right successor model. Just scan the QR code if the unit is broken. And then you can see here the successor product. And if you click on the inquiry button, it's not placing an order, it's just asking for additional informations or asking to get a pricing or something like that. And in this case, you will provide us for sure the successor model with a complete description, also with the order code, and you will also inform us about the original product out there in your field, also with the description and the order number. And in this case, we can also check if maybe the successor model is has other dimensions or a pin connection is changed or something like that. So we can offer you the best service in that case just by scanning the QR code, and you have directly access to all also the additional informations in the future. So this can also reduce your downtime dramatically. Normally, you can find those things also in an online shop or in online shop systems. But if you take a look to the online shops, normally you need to have a login. And to be honest, the technician on site don't have the right login at that case, and they have to search for the right login, and then they waste the time. And if you take a look to the online shops nowadays, you will not find information about products which are 30, 40 years old or something like that. You will always have the newest information there. So we decided to place this information directly into the asset administration shell as a digital twin of a product. So if you copy this information into your own system, or if you have a link to it, it's always there without using any shop systems. So that's a big advantage because it's always related to the digital twin. So that are the 6 use cases we pointed out here. So if you go to our demonstrator, for sure, you will find also a lot of different asset administration shells here. The link should be within the chat right now. You can use it for free. You can play with it. And if you give us a feedback, you're always welcome. So from our point of view, the customer benefits are cross-manufacturer customer benefits. So it's not always or only related to our own products. So every supplier in the market can offer you those benefits if they're following the same way we are doing it. So with asset administration shells, you have the perfect base for digital engineering and for plant planning. You have the perfect base for asset management tools, for service and maintenance tools. You have a simplified handling just by scanning the QR code. You have an access to all the different product informations, and it's future proven. So also if you need later on a digital product passport driven from the EU government, then it's also the right way to provide it. So that's from my point, right in time, I hope. So if you have any questions, please feel free to place them.
Thank you, Roland. We are already a bit over time, but I think enough people stayed. So if you have any question, we will allow some more questions. Please just put them in the chat or just raise your hand and ask your question directly to Roland. There's one question in the chat. Joshua is asking, does the name tag contain only the QR code, or is there also other information that needs to be printed on the physical nameplates? How do you prevent the QR tags from becoming unreadable?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we also, had a lot of discussions about that. So for sure, you need to make sure that the QR code is readable. And if you have environments, for example, out there in the desert where you have a lot of sand, which will, for sure, will damage a printed nameplate, in this case, you can use RFID tags because they will not affect it by sand or something like that. So you have to take a look to the ambient conditions where you place the product. So a lot of products are also placed inside of an enclosure. So in this case, also name tags are not affected by the ambient conditions. But there is a solution for all different ambient conditions. And in the QR code, it's based on the IEC standards. So you have the URL and you have additionally the serial number. With this, you have the perfect identification. And in case of our enclosures, we normally attach a second printed label inside of the enclosure that you can open the enclosure and get a spare type plate for those cases.
There's another question. Ali is asking, first of all, he says, thank you for the nice presentation. And then comes the question, I would like to ask, are you considering active AAS? And how much active AAS is achievable today?
Okay, this is a more advanced question. I skipped this part in my presentation related to the time. At the moment, we are just focusing on passive AAS, but we have the plan at first establish the passive AAS and then go on with active AAS. If we are talking about active AAS, you need to have also smart devices where you can have additional information or data coming from the device itself. So this is our plan for the future, and inside the IDTAs, there are a lot of members. They are already dealing with active AAS at the moment. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Roland. No more questions. We're a bit over time already. So thank you for participating today. Thank you, Roland, for the exciting presentation. In 2 weeks, we have Birgit with us. She's going to give us an introduction to the AAS meta model, though this is going to be a more technical presentation about the basic specification of the AAS. So Birgit is one of our lead architects for the asset administration shell. We would be happy if you join our webcast again. And if you want to review this webcast, just have a look on our YouTube channel. You will find the link on our website. If you have any questions, you have seen the contact information from Roland if it's about his presentation. If you need any information about IDTA or the asset administration shell, please just contact me. Thank you for today.